What if the second coming of Christ was never meant to happen the way the church is taught? What if the real reason Jesus must return has been deliberately hidden from humanity for 2,000 years? And what if that truth was being guarded in a place no human was ever supposed to see? The story I'm about to share will challenge everything you believe about prophecy, salvation, and why the most important figure in human history is coming back. This is not a story about faith. This is not a story about religion. This is a story about a man who was taken somewhere impossible and shown the terrifying truth about what is coming for humanity and why only one thing can stop it. I warn you now. Once you hear this, you will never read the scriptures the same way again. You will never look at the world the same way again. And you will understand why this knowledge has been kept from you for so long. If you've ever felt that something is wrong with the world, that humanity is heading toward a breaking point, that the old prophecies about the end times might be more real than anyone wants to admit, this story will give you answers. Answers the powerful don't want you to have. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Because what Marcus Chen experienced in the mountains of Peru 3 years ago didn't just change his understanding of Jesus. It revealed why the survival of the human race depends on what happens next. Now let me tell you how it all began. Cusco, Peru, March 3rd, 2:17 a.m. Marcus Chen woke to a sound that didn't belong, a low hum almost beneath the range of hearing, vibrating through the walls of his rented room. He lay still in the darkness, listening. The hostel was cheap and the walls were thin. He was used to noise, drunk tourists, stray dogs, the endless honking of taxis in the streets below. But this was different. This sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Marcus sat up slowly. At 47, his body protested sudden movements more than it used to. Too many years hunched over ancient texts, too many nights sleeping in uncomfortable places while chasing answers that never came. He walked to the window and looked out at the sleeping city. The old Incan capital spread below him, a maze of colonial buildings built on foundations that were ancient when Rome was young. Somewhere out there, in the mountains that surrounded the valley, were ruins that had drawn him here. Temples that predated recorded history, stones carved with symbols that no one could fully explain. That was why Marcus had come to Peru, not as a tourist, not even as the theology professor he had once been. He had come as a man searching for something he couldn't name, something that might fill the hole that had been growing inside him for the past 3 years. The hum intensified. Marcus pressed his hand against the window glass and felt it vibrating. Then, as suddenly as it had started, the sound stopped. Marcus stood there for a long moment, waiting. Nothing. Just the normal silence of a city at rest. "You're losing it," he muttered to himself. "You came all this way to lose your mind in the Andes." But he didn't go back to bed. Instead, he sat in the chair by the window and watched the sky lighten toward dawn, thinking about how he had ended up here, thinking about everything he had lost. 3 years ago, Marcus Chen had been a respected professor of comparative theology at Boston University. 22 years teaching, 6 books published, a reputation as one of the foremost scholars on the historical Jesus and early Christianity. He had spent his entire career studying faith from the outside, analyzing it, dissecting it. He knew more about the origins of Christianity than most priests. He could trace how doctrines evolved, how councils shaped belief, how political power had twisted a simple teacher's message into an institution of control. But knowing wasn't the same as believing, and Marcus had never believed. Not really. He studied religion the way a biologist studies animals, with interest, with respect, but always from a distance. Then his daughter got sick. Emma was 19 when they found the tumor, glioblastoma, the same word that had taken Daniel Everett's wife, though Marcus would never know that, a word that meant death sentence wrapped in medical terminology. Marcus watched his only child deteriorate over 8 months, watched her go from a vibrant young woman with her whole life ahead of her to a shadow in a hospital bed, barely able to recognize her own father. And in those 8 months, something strange happened. Emma started talking about visions, about beings of light visiting her room at night, about a presence that told her not to be afraid, about Jesus specifically appearing to her and telling her that death was just a door. Marcus had dismissed it at first, tumor pressing on the brain, hallucinations from medication, the desperate grasping of a dying mind for comfort. But Emma had been so certain, so peaceful. In her final weeks, while Marcus was falling apart, his daughter had become almost radiant. She spoke about things she couldn't possibly know. She described experiences that didn't fit any medical explanation. "He's real, Dad," she had said to him 2 days before she died. "Jesus is real. Not the way the church teaches. Different. Bigger. And he's coming back. Something important is going to happen. I wish I could explain it better." Marcus had held her hand and nodded, humoring her, breaking inside. When Emma died, Marcus's carefully constructed worldview died with her. He couldn't go back to treating religion as an academic subject, not after watching his daughter find genuine peace through something he couldn't explain. But he couldn't believe either. He was stuck in between, unable to move in either direction. He stopped teaching, stopped writing, stopped doing much of anything. His wife, already strained by years of his emotional distance, finally left. The university granted him an indefinite leave of absence that everyone knew was permanent. And Marcus began to search. He traveled, studied, investigated accounts of mystical experiences, near-death encounters, unexplained phenomena. He went to India, Tibet, Egypt. He interviewed monks and mystics and people who claimed to have seen things beyond normal reality. He was looking for evidence, proof that Emma's visions had been more than dying neurons firing randomly, proof that there was something beyond the material world his scientific training insisted was all that existed. Peru was his latest stop. The ancient sites here predated the Incas by thousands of years. Some researchers claimed they held secrets about humanity's true origins. Others whispered about doorways to other dimensions, places where the veil between worlds was thin. Marcus didn't know what he believed anymore, but he knew he couldn't stop searching. Not until he found answers, or died trying. The sun was fully up now. Marcus showered, dressed, and prepared for another day of exploring ruins and finding nothing, just like every other day for the past 3 years. But today would be different. Today, in the mountains above Cusco, Marcus Chen would find exactly what he had been searching for, and it would terrify him in ways he never imagined. Marcus hired a local guide to take him into the mountains, a weathered man named Jorge, who claimed to know paths that tourists never saw, places where the old magic still lived, he said, with a gap-toothed smile that could have been sincere or simply good salesmanship. They drove for 2 hours on roads that barely deserved the name, then hiked for another 3 into terrain that grew increasingly wild. Jorge pointed out Incan stonework along the way, walls built with blocks so precisely fitted that a knife blade couldn't slip between them, technology that modern engineers still couldn't fully explain. "The ancestors knew things," Jorge said, "things we have forgotten, things that are waiting to be remembered." Marcus nodded, only half listening. He had heard versions of this speech at every ancient site he'd visited. The mystery, the lost knowledge, the promise that answers were just around the next corner. But then Jorge stopped walking. His weathered face had gone pale. "What is it?" Marcus asked. Jorge pointed toward a narrow canyon ahead. "I don't go there. Nobody goes there." "Why not?" "Bad spirits. Strange lights at night. People who enter don't come back the same." Jorge shook his head firmly. "I wait here. You go if you want, but I wait here." Marcus looked at the canyon. It was unremarkable, just a gap between 2 rocky ridges, shadowed despite the afternoon sun. "Fine," he said. "Wait here. I'll be back in an hour." Jorge grabbed his arm. "Be careful, Professor. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed." Marcus pulled free and walked toward the canyon. He didn't believe in bad spirits. He didn't believe in much of anything anymore. But something pulled him forward. The same something that had dragged him across continents for 3 years. The desperate need to know. The canyon was narrow, barely wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side. The walls rose steeply on either side, covered in moss and strange symbols that Marcus didn't recognize. Not Incan, not any culture he had studied. Something older. He traced his fingers along the carvings as he walked. They seemed to pulse faintly under his touch. A trick of the light, he told himself, or exhaustion, or altitude. The canyon opened suddenly into a circular clearing, and Marcus stopped breathing. In the center of the clearing stood a structure. It wasn't a ruin. It wasn't ancient. It was pristine. a dome of some metallic material that reflected the sky like liquid mercury, roughly 30 feet in diameter, sitting on the bare rock as if it had been placed there yesterday. "What the hell?" Marcus whispered. He approached slowly, his heart hammering. This wasn't archaeological, this wasn't historical, this was something else entirely. As he got closer, a section of the dome simply vanished. No door opening, no mechanical movement. One moment solid wall, the next moment an entrance. And standing in that entrance was a figure. Tall, thin, gray skin that seemed to shimmer slightly, large dark eyes that reflected Marcus like mirrors. Humanoid, but clearly not human. Marcus's legs locked. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but his body wouldn't obey. "Do not be afraid, Marcus Chen." The voice came from inside his head, clear, calm, almost gentle. "How do you know my name?" The words came out as a croak. "We have been watching you for some time, your search, your questions, your grief. You are ready to receive what you have been seeking." "What I've been seeking?" Marcus forced his legs to take a step backward. "I'm seeking answers about my daughter, about what she saw before she died. Not whatever this is. It is all connected. Your daughter's visions, the historical figure you spent your career studying, the transformation that is coming for your species. All connected, all part of why you were drawn here today." Marcus's mind raced. He thought about running, about screaming for Jorge, about pretending none of this was happening. But then, the being said something that froze him completely. "Emma is well. She exists in a state of consciousness your language cannot adequately describe, and she asked us to find you." "That's impossible," Marcus said, his voice breaking. "She's dead. She's been dead for 3 years. Death is not what you believe it to be, but you already suspect this, or you would not have spent 3 years searching. Come inside, Marcus. Let us show you what your daughter wanted you to understand. Let us show you why Jesus must return and what that truly means." Marcus stood at the threshold of the impossible. Behind him, the familiar world, the world of grief and doubt and endless searching. Ahead of him, something that defied everything he thought he knew about reality. He thought about Emma's final words. "He's real, Dad. Something important is going to happen." "If I come inside," Marcus said slowly, "will I be able to leave?" "Yes. You will return to your world with knowledge. What you do with that knowledge will be your choice. We force nothing. We only offer truth to those ready to receive it." Marcus took a breath, then another, and then he walked forward into the dome. The interior was larger than should have been possible, given the outside dimensions. The walls glowed with soft light that seemed to come from everywhere at once. There were no visible fixtures, no machinery he could recognize, just smooth surfaces and that gentle, pervasive illumination. "Sit." A chair materialized behind him. Not assembled, not lowered from somewhere. It simply existed where it hadn't existed a moment before. Marcus sat, because his legs were shaking too badly to stand anyway. "We are going to take you somewhere, a place your species does not know exists, a place where the truth about Jesus, about human origins, about the coming transformation has been preserved for millennia. Do not be afraid. The journey will feel strange, but you will not be harmed." "Where are we going?" "Beneath your feet, deep inside the earth, to a base that has existed since before your recorded history, a base that was built for exactly this moment in human evolution." Marcus felt the floor shift beneath him, or rather, he felt everything shift. His stomach lurched, the light around him blurred and streaked, and then, as suddenly as it had started, the movement stopped. "We have arrived. Welcome, Marcus Chen, to the place where the truth has been waiting for you." The walls of the dome became transparent, and Marcus saw something that shattered every remaining assumption he had about the world. A vast underground cavern stretched before him, lit by the same soft glow as the dome's interior, but this space was enormous, miles across, and it was filled with structures, buildings, vessels, technology that looked like it belonged in science fiction, not hundreds of feet beneath the Peruvian mountains. And there were beings, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, moving between structures, working at stations, existing in a place that shouldn't exist. "My God," Marcus breathed. "Not God." but perhaps closer to what your religions were trying to describe than you might imagine. Now come. There is much to show you, and not much time. The return is coming, Marcus, and humanity must be prepared. Marcus followed the being out of the dome and into the cavern. His mind struggled to process what his eyes were seeing. The scale alone was overwhelming. This wasn't a cave. It was an entire underground city, carved from the living rock, or perhaps grown from it in ways he couldn't understand. "How long has this been here?" he asked. "Longer than your species has existed in its current form. This base was established approximately 14,000 years ago, during what you would call the end of the last ice age, a time of great transition for Earth." 14,000 years, Marcus shook his head. That predates every known civilization. It predates your recorded civilizations, but it does not predate civilization itself. Humanity has risen and fallen many times, Marcus. What you call history is merely the latest chapter in a much longer story. They walked along a pathway that wound between structures. Some looked like buildings. Others looked like nothing Marcus had words for. Geometric shapes that seemed to shift slightly when he looked directly at them. Other beings moved around them, most similar to his guide. A few looked different, taller, shorter, some with skin that held hints of blue or gold rather than gray. "There are different species here," Marcus said. "Yes. Multiple civilizations cooperate in monitoring and assisting Earth's development. We have different origins, different histories, but a shared purpose." "What purpose?" The being stopped and turned to face him. Those large, dark eyes held something that might have been compassion. "To help your species survive what is coming, and to prepare for the return of the one you call Jesus." Marcus felt his heart rate spike. Tell me everything. Why does Jesus need to return? What's coming?" "Walk with me. I will show you." They entered one of the larger structures. Inside was a vast circular room with walls that displayed images. Moving images, like screens, but more vivid, more real, as if windows had been cut into different times and places. "What do you know about Jesus of Nazareth, Marcus? Not what you believe. What do you know from your decades of scholarly study?" Marcus collected his thoughts. He was a Jewish teacher who lived roughly 2,000 years ago. He taught about love, forgiveness, the coming of God's kingdom. He was executed by Roman authorities, and his followers claimed he rose from the dead. Those followers built a religion that became one of the largest in human history. All accurate, but incomplete. Let me show you what your scholarship could never reveal. The walls shifted. Images formed. Marcus saw a landscape he recognized from paintings and films. Ancient Judea, desert hills, stone buildings. Jesus was not merely a human teacher. He was what we call an incarnated consciousness, a highly evolved being who chose to take physical form on Earth at a critical moment in human development. Like an avatar? A god taking human shape? Not a god in the way your religions describe. Consciousness exists on a spectrum, Marcus. Some souls are young, just beginning their journey through physical existence. Others are ancient, having evolved through countless lifetimes across multiple worlds. Jesus was among the most evolved consciousnesses to ever incarnate on your planet. The images showed a child, a young boy with dark hair and bright eyes, sitting among teachers in a temple, speaking with a wisdom that didn't match his years. He came with a specific mission, to plant seeds of truth that would eventually flower into humanity's awakening, to demonstrate what human consciousness is capable of when fully aligned with universal love, and to establish an energetic template that would make his return possible when the time was right. His return? You keep saying that, but what does it mean? Christians have been waiting 2,000 years for Jesus to come back, and their waiting has been based on a misunderstanding. The return was never meant to be what your churches describe. Not a figure descending from clouds to judge the living and dead. The return is something far more profound and far more necessary. The images shifted again. Now Marcus saw something that made his blood run cold. Earth, viewed from space, but not the blue marble he recognized from photographs. This Earth was wounded. Brown patches spread across continents. Storms swirled in unnatural patterns, and there was a darkness around it. Not physical darkness, something else. Something that felt wrong even through the image. This is your planet as it exists now. not as your eyes perceive it, but as consciousness perceives it. The darkness you see is accumulated negative energy, fear, hatred, greed, separation. 2,000 years of humanity moving away from the truth Jesus tried to teach. Marcus stared at the image. It looks sick. It is sick, and it is approaching a critical threshold. Your species stands at a crossroads, Marcus. In the next generation, perhaps sooner, humanity will either transcend its current limitations or destroy itself. There is no third option. Destroy itself how? War? Climate change? Those are symptoms, not causes. The cause is consciousness. Humanity has reached a level of technological capability that requires a corresponding level of spiritual maturity. You now have the power to end all life on your planet, but you have not developed the wisdom to wield that power responsibly. The being gestured, and new images appeared. Wars, environmental destruction, political systems collapsing, people divided against each other, consumed by fear and hatred. This is the trajectory your species is currently following, not because it is inevitable, but because it is what the collective consciousness is creating. Remember what you learned as a scholar, Marcus. Jesus taught that faith moves mountains. What he meant was that consciousness shapes reality, and right now, human consciousness is shaping a reality of destruction. Marcus felt sick. So that's it? We're doomed? No. This is why the return must happen. Not Jesus descending from heaven, but Christ consciousness awakening within humanity itself. A critical mass of humans remembering what Jesus demonstrated. Remembering that love is more powerful than fear. Remembering that they are creators, not victims. I don't understand. What does that look like? How does consciousness awakening stop nuclear war or climate collapse? The being moved to the center of the room. The images on the walls changed again, showing something different. People, ordinary people, but they were glowing, not with physical light, but with something Marcus could perceive even through the image, an energy, a radiance. These are humans who have begun to awaken, scattered across your planet, more every day. When they reach critical mass, approximately 1% of your population holding genuine Christ consciousness, the collective field will shift. Fear will lose its grip. New solutions will emerge. Conflicts that seemed impossible to resolve will dissolve. Technology will be redirected toward healing rather than destruction. 1%? That's still millions of people. 70 to 80 million roughly, and the number currently awakened is far smaller. This is why intervention has become necessary. This is why you are here. This is why the return must be accelerated. Marcus's mind was reeling. Why me? I'm not awakened. I'm not even sure I believe any of this. You were chosen because of your unique position. Scholar of religion who lost faith. Father who lost a child. Seeker who has spent 3 years preparing without knowing what you were preparing for. You have credibility in the academic world. You have the knowledge to explain these truths in ways that can reach people who would dismiss them from other sources. You want me to be some kind of messenger? We want you to understand. What you do with that understanding is your choice. But first, you must see why Jesus specifically must return, why his consciousness, his energy, is essential to what is coming. The walls displayed a new image, Jesus as a man, not the sanitized version from church paintings, a real person with weathered skin and intense eyes, standing on a hillside, teaching a crowd. When Jesus incarnated, he anchored something in Earth's energy field, a template, a pattern. Think of it as a seed planted in the collective consciousness of your species. That seed contained the full potential of human spiritual evolution, love, compassion, unity, the ability to transcend physical limitations through consciousness alone. Marcus watched the images of Jesus healing the sick, feeding the hungry, embracing the outcasts. But a seed is not a tree. It must be nurtured to grow. And for 2,000 years, that seed has been largely dormant. Occasionally, individuals have touched it. Saints, mystics, people who demonstrated unusual abilities or profound wisdom. But the full flowering has not occurred. Because the church distorted his message, Marcus said slowly. They turned liberation into control, made people dependent instead of powerful. Yes, the institutions that claimed to represent Jesus actually suppressed the truth he came to share. They taught that humans were sinful and helpless, needing external salvation. When Jesus taught that the kingdom of heaven is within, that you will do greater works than I have done, that God and humanity are not separate. I know those passages, I have studied them my whole career, but I always interpreted them as metaphor. They were not metaphor, they were literal instruction. And now, at this critical moment, the seed Jesus planted must finally bloom. His consciousness must return to activate what has been dormant, not through a physical body this time, through awakening within humans themselves. The images shifted to show something that made Marcus gasp. Emma, his daughter. Not as she had been in those final terrible months, but healthy, radiant, standing in a field of light, smiling directly at him as if she could see him watching. Your daughter was one of the first wave, souls who incarnated specifically to anchor the returning Christ consciousness. Her visions before death were not hallucinations, Marcus. They were real contact with the realms where Jesus exists. She was preparing to become a bridge. A bridge? Tears were streaming down Marcus's face. She was 19. She died. How is that being a bridge? Physical death did not end her mission. It transformed it. Emma now works from the other side, helping to awaken those still in physical form. She specifically requested that you be contacted, that you be shown the truth, because she knew you would not believe unless you saw. The image of Emma moved. She raised her hand as if reaching toward him. She wants you to know that her death had purpose, that her suffering had meaning, that the peace she found at the end was real, and you can find it too. Not by dying, but by awakening while still alive. Marcus fell to his knees. The grief he had carried for 3 years, the guilt, the desperate searching, all of it crashed through him like a wave. He sobbed openly, not caring that an alien being was watching. She also wants you to know that she loves you, that she always loved you, and that she will be waiting when your time comes. But not yet. You have work to do first. The image of Emma faded. Marcus remained on his knees, struggling to breathe, struggling to process. Do you understand now why the return matters? Why Jesus must come back? Not as a judge or a king, but as an awakening force that activates the divine potential in every human being? I understand, Marcus whispered, but I still don't understand what I'm supposed to do about it. You will share what you have learned, in your own words, in your own way. The truth has been hidden for too long, guarded by institutions that benefited from humanity's ignorance, but the time for secrets has passed. The crisis is too urgent. The return must be accelerated. Marcus slowly got to his feet. His face was wet with tears, but something had shifted inside him. The emptiness he had carried since Emma's death wasn't gone, but it had transformed into something else. Purpose, direction. What happens if the awakening doesn't happen in time? If the critical mass isn't reached? The being was silent for a moment. When it spoke, there was weight in its telepathic voice. Then humanity will follow the path of other species who reached this threshold and failed. Destruction, collapse, perhaps extinction. Certainly the end of civilization as you know it, and the process would have to begin again, with new souls over thousands of years. That's what's at stake? Human survival? More than that, Earth is a school, a place where consciousness evolves through physical experience. If humanity fails, it affects not just your species, but the entire cosmic community that has invested in your development. Billions of souls who chose to incarnate on Earth for this specific moment would have their journeys disrupted. The ripple effects would extend far beyond your planet. Marcus looked around the vast cavern, at the beings moving about their work, at the technology that seemed impossible. All of this base, your species, others, you've been preparing for this moment? For 14,000 years, since the last time humanity approached this threshold and fell back, we have guided, influenced, protected. We have sent teachers like Jesus to plant seeds. We have prevented your species from destroying itself prematurely several times, but we cannot do the actual work of awakening. That must come from within. Free will is inviolable. So you can show me the truth, but you can't make humanity accept it. Correct. We can only offer. Humans must choose, and enough humans must choose love over fear, unity over separation, awakening over sleep. If they do, a new chapter begins. If they don't, The being didn't finish the sentence. It didn't need to. There is one more thing you must see before you return to the surface. The most important thing. The actual mechanism of the return. They walked deeper into the structure, through corridors that seemed to bend in ways that shouldn't be possible, until they reached a chamber that took Marcus's breath away. In the center of the room was a sphere of light, not a lamp or a projection. Pure light, hovering in space, roughly 10 feet in diameter. And within that light, Marcus could see something. A presence, a consciousness, something vast and loving and ancient beyond measure. This is an anchor point, one of several on your planet. It holds a direct connection to the consciousness you call Jesus, the Christ, the Anointed One. Through these anchor points, his energy flows into Earth's field, nurturing the seed he planted 2,000 years ago. Marcus approached slowly. The light was warm, not physically warm, but warm in some other way. It felt like love, like being embraced by something infinitely compassionate. When the critical mass is reached, these anchor points will fully activate. Christ consciousness will flood the planet, not as external force, but as internal awakening. Every human will feel it. Every human will have the choice to accept or resist. Those who accept will transform. Those who resist will be unable to stop the transformation of others. And Jesus himself, will he appear? He appears now in this light. He appears in every act of genuine love. He appears in every moment of awakening. The question is not whether he will appear, but whether humans will recognize him, whether they will remember what he taught, whether they will finally understand that they are not separate from God, not sinners waiting for judgment, but divine beings temporarily experiencing physical form. Marcus stood before the sphere of light for a long time. He couldn't say how long. Time seemed meaningless in that presence. And then, softly, he heard something, not telepathically, not from the being beside him, from the light itself. My child, you have suffered, you have searched, and now you have found what you were looking for. Go back, share what you have learned. Not everyone will listen, but some will. And each one who awakens brings humanity closer to the threshold. Each one is a victory. Each one matters. The voice was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. It was love made audible, compassion given form, and it knew him completely. Every doubt, every failure, every moment of despair, it knew, and it loved him anyway. Your daughter serves me now as she served me in physical form without knowing it. Her love for you was a reflection of my love. Her peace at the end was a gift I gave her, as I will give it to all who ask. There is no death, Marcus, only transformation, only the eternal journey of consciousness returning to its source. Marcus fell to his knees again, but this time not from grief, from awe, from gratitude, from the overwhelming experience of being seen and loved by something so vast and so good. Go now. The world needs what you carry. The time is short, but the outcome is not yet written. There is still hope. There is always hope. The light began to fade, or perhaps Marcus was being pulled away from it. The chamber blurred. The being beside him placed a hand on his shoulder. It is time to return. You have seen what you needed to see. Now, the work begins. The journey back to the surface was instantaneous. One moment Marcus was in the underground base, surrounded by impossible technology and beings from other worlds. The next moment he was standing in the circular clearing, the dome behind him, the afternoon sun warm on his face. He turned to look at the dome, but it was already fading, not disappearing exactly, more like becoming transparent, then invisible, then simply not there anymore. Wait, Marcus said aloud. I have more questions. I need to know more. But the being was gone. The dome was gone. He was alone in a clearing in the Peruvian mountains with only his memories as proof that any of it had happened. For a moment, panic seized him. What if it had all been a hallucination, altitude sickness, dehydration, a psychotic break after 3 years of grief and obsessive searching? But then, he felt something in his chest, a warmth that hadn't been there before, a presence, and he knew, with a certainty that bypassed his rational mind entirely, that everything he had experienced was real. He found Jorge waiting exactly where he had left him, sitting on a rock, chewing coca leaves. "You were gone 5 hours," the guide said, his eyes studying Marcus with new wariness. "I almost left, but something told me to stay." 5 hours. It had felt like maybe 1. "Thank you for waiting," Marcus said. His voice sounded different to his own ears, steadier, more grounded. Jorge looked at him for a long moment. "You saw something in there, something that changed you." "Yes. The old ones say that Canyon is a doorway, a place where the ancestors still speak to those who are ready to listen." Jorge stood up and shouldered his pack. "You look like a man who has heard something important." Marcus nodded slowly. "I have, and now I have to figure out what to do with it." The hike back to civilization felt different. The colors seemed brighter. The air tasted sweeter. Marcus noticed details he had missed on the way up. The intricate patterns in rock formations, the way light filtered through clouds, the profound silence of the mountains, which wasn't really silence at all, but a symphony of subtle sounds he had been too distracted to hear before. That night, back in his hostel room in Cusco, Marcus sat at the small desk and began to write. The words poured out of him like water from a broken dam. Everything he had seen, everything he had been told, the underground base, the truth about Jesus, the coming crisis, the need for awakening. He wrote until his hand cramped, slept for a few hours, woke and wrote more. By the time the sun rose, he had filled an entire notebook. He read back through it. The scholar in him, the one trained to analyze and question and doubt, tried to reassert itself. "This is insane. No one will believe this. You'll destroy whatever reputation you have left." But another voice, stronger now, pushed back. "Does that matter? If even one person awakens because of what you share, isn't that worth any cost to your reputation?" Marcus thought about Emma, about the peace in her eyes at the end, about the vision of her in that field of light, healthy and radiant and more alive than she had ever been in physical form. She had asked for him to be shown the truth. She was working from the other side to help humanity awaken. The least he could do was work from this side. 2 weeks later, Marcus flew back to Boston. He didn't return to the university. Instead, he rented a small apartment and began organizing his notes, structuring the information, figuring out how to present experiences that defied conventional explanation. He started with the people closest to him. His ex-wife, Sandra, agreed to meet for coffee. She listened to his story with the skepticism he expected, but also with something else: curiosity, maybe even hope. "You seem different," she said when he finished. "More present, more alive. For 3 years you've been a ghost, Marcus. Now you're actually here." "I found what I was looking for, or it found me." "And you really believe all this? Underground bases? Aliens? Jesus coming back through some kind of collective awakening?" "I don't just believe it. I experienced it. I saw Emma, Sandra. She's okay. She's more than okay. She wanted me to know. She wanted both of us to know." Sandra's eyes filled with tears. She had grieved Emma too, had blamed Marcus for his emotional distance during their daughter's illness, had left him partly because she couldn't bear to watch him drown in guilt and denial. "I want to believe you," she whispered. "I want so badly to believe she's still somewhere." "She is. I can't prove it to you, but I know it, and I think, deep down, you know it too. All those things she said at the end, the peace she found, that wasn't delusion. That was truth." They talked for 3 hours. Sandra didn't leave converted, but she left open, and that was enough. Openness was the first step. Over the following months, Marcus began reaching out to others, former colleagues who had written him off as a burned-out academic, students who had admired his scholarship before his breakdown, people he met in coffee shops and bookstores who seemed to carry the same searching look he had worn for 3 years. He didn't preach. He had learned enough from his studies to know that preaching created resistance. Instead, he shared. He told his story. He asked questions. He listened. Some people dismissed him immediately, crazy, grief-stricken, New Age nonsense. He accepted their rejection without argument. The being had warned him that not everyone would listen. Free will was inviolable. He couldn't force awakening any more than the beings in the underground base could, but some people leaned in. Their eyes lit up with recognition. They shared their own experiences, strange dreams, moments of inexplicable knowing. a growing sense that something was shifting in the world, that old structures were crumbling, that humanity was approaching some kind of threshold. "I've felt it for years," a young woman named Maria told him after a talk he gave at a small bookstore. "Like the world is holding its breath, like something huge is about to happen. But I didn't have words for it until now." "The words don't matter," Marcus said. "The feeling does. That feeling is your consciousness recognizing the truth. Trust it. Let it guide you." 6 months after Peru, Marcus published his first article online, not in an academic journal. Those doors were closed to him now, but on a simple blog that anyone could access. He titled it, "What I Learned in the Mountains, A Scholar's Encounter with Impossible Truth." The article went viral, not massive viral, not millions of views, but enough. Thousands of people read it. Hundreds reached out, some to mock him, some to question, but many, more than he expected, to thank him. "I lost my son last year," one email read. "I've been drowning in grief, just like you described. Your story gave me hope for the first time since he died. I don't know if I believe all of it, but I believe enough to keep going. Thank you." That email made Marcus weep. One person, one moment of hope offered to one drowning soul. That was enough. That justified everything. A year after Peru, Marcus had built a small community, a few hundred people who gathered online and occasionally in person to discuss the ideas he had shared. They called themselves Seekers, though Marcus discouraged any formal organization. Institutions had corrupted Jesus' message. He wouldn't let that happen again. "We're not a religion," he told them repeatedly. "We're not a movement. We're just people trying to wake up, trying to help others wake up, that's all." He continued to dream about Emma. Not every night, but often. The dreams felt less like dreams and more like visits. She would appear in that field of light, radiant and peaceful, and they would talk. She told him things, guidance about his work, assurance when he doubted, warnings when he was about to make mistakes. "You're doing well, Dad," she said in one dream. "The ripples are spreading. Each person who wakes up touches others. It's working. Slowly, but it's working." "Is it fast enough?" he asked. The being said humanity doesn't have much time. "Time is different than you think. The crisis is real, but so is the response. More people are awakening every day. The light is growing. Don't lose hope." He woke from those dreams renewed, recommitted, ready to continue. 2 years after Peru, Marcus received an unexpected invitation. A conference on consciousness and spirituality, held at a major university, wanted him to speak. Not as an academic presenting peer-reviewed research, as an experiencer sharing direct knowledge. He almost declined, standing in front of scholars and scientists, telling his story of alien contact and underground bases, and the return of Christ consciousness. It felt like walking into a firing squad, but something told him to accept, the same something that had told him to walk into that canyon in Peru. The conference room was packed. Word had spread about the former theology professor who claimed to have been taken to a hidden base and shown the truth about Jesus. Some came to learn, some came to mock. All of them came curious. Marcus stood at the podium and looked out at the faces, skeptical, hopeful, confused, angry. The full spectrum of human response to ideas that challenged fundamental assumptions. He took a breath and began. 3 years ago, I lost my daughter to cancer. She was 19 years old. Before she died, she told me that Jesus was real, that something important was going to happen, that death was just a door. I didn't believe her. I was a scholar. I dealt in evidence, not faith. He paused, feeling the weight of every eye in the room. 2 years ago, in the mountains of Peru, I was taken somewhere I shouldn't be able to go. I was shown things I shouldn't be able to see. And I was told truths that have been hidden from humanity for 2,000 years. I'm not here to convince you. I'm not here to convert you. I'm here to share what I experienced and let you decide for yourself what it means. He spoke for an hour. The room was silent throughout. When he finished, the questions came. Hostile ones, curious ones, desperate ones from people who had lost loved ones and needed to believe death wasn't the end. He answered them all honestly. When he didn't know, he said so. When the evidence was only his own experience, he admitted it. He made no claims to special authority or exclusive truth. Afterwards, a woman approached him, elderly, dignified, something familiar in her eyes. "I was a nurse for 40 years, she said. "I was with hundreds of people when they died, and I can tell you, something leaves the body at the moment of death, something real. I've seen it, felt it. The materialists can explain it away all they want, but I know what I witnessed." She took his hand in both of hers. "Thank you for having the courage to speak. The world needs more people willing to tell uncomfortable truths, whatever the cost." Marcus walked out of that conference different than he had walked in. Not because he had convinced everyone, he hadn't, but because he had done what he was asked to do. He had shared. He had planted seeds. What grew from them was not his to control. 3 years after Peru, Marcus Chen was no longer a broken man searching for meaning. He was a messenger, imperfect, still learning, still growing, but committed to the work he had been given. He thought often about what the being had told him. 1% of humanity, 70 to 80 million people holding genuine Christ consciousness. It seemed impossible, a drop in the ocean of 8 billion souls. But drops became streams, streams became rivers, and rivers could move mountains. Every person who awakened mattered. Every moment of love over fear mattered. Every choice to see unity instead of separation mattered. The return was happening, not in clouds and trumpets, not in judgment and apocalypse, but in the quiet transformation of human hearts, one by one, rippling outward until the tide became unstoppable. Marcus couldn't see the end of the story. He didn't know if humanity would reach the threshold in time, but he knew his part. And he would play it until his last breath, for Emma, for the world, for the consciousness of love that had spoken to him from a sphere of light in the heart of the earth. The work continued, and that was enough. Marcus Chen's journey from grieving father to messenger of hidden truth reveals something that each of us needs to hear right now. The return of Jesus is not a distant event to wait for. It is a present reality to participate in. Christ consciousness is not reserved for saints and mystics. It is the birthright of every human being. And the awakening that will determine humanity's survival is not someone else's responsibility. It is yours. The beings who showed Marcus the truth have been watching humanity for thousands of years. They have seen civilizations rise and fall. They have witnessed the seeds planted by Jesus, and other teachers lie dormant, while institutions built empires on distorted versions of their messages. And now, they are watching to see if humanity will finally remember what it has always known but been taught to forget. You are not a sinner waiting for judgment. You are a divine consciousness temporarily inhabiting a physical form. You are not powerless before the forces destroying your world. You are a creator whose thoughts and choices shape reality itself. You are not separate from God or from each other. You are expressions of the same infinite source, playing different roles in the same cosmic story. The crisis is real, the timeline is short, but the outcome is not yet written. Every person who awakens tips the balance toward survival. Every choice of love over fear strengthens the field. Every moment of genuine compassion activates the Christ consciousness that Jesus anchored in human potential 2,000 years ago. So I ask you, what will you choose? Will you remain asleep, waiting for someone else to save you? Or will you accept the truth that salvation was never external, that the return happens through you, as you, when you finally remember who you really are? If this story stirred something in you, pay attention to that stirring. It is not random. It is recognition, your consciousness remembering what it knew before it forgot. Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what you felt. Tell us if you have had experiences that suggested there is more to reality than the material world admits. Your story might be the spark that awakens someone else. And if you want more stories like this one, stories that reveal the truths hidden behind religion and history and the lies we have been told about our own nature, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. The return is happening, right now, in hearts and minds across the planet. The only question is whether you will be part of it.